Hello, Hitless Gaming here, bringing you another guide on Diablo 2 Resurrected. Today I want to talk a little bit about Ubers, how to run them. This is the after I got my keys part. The keys are a separate video. We can probably make a whole video on keys. But I want to talk about actually running the Ubers. You got your 3 keys of terror, you got your 3 keys of destruction, and your 3 keys of hate. What now? First up, you're going to want to gear up a character to do the Ubers, or specifically make a group to do the Ubers. There's a couple things that you're really going to want to have in order to do them, and they're pretty easy to acquire on a single character and or as a group. So I'm going to kind of go over those things, and I'm going to do a demonstration running the Ubers to kind of give you an expectation as to how difficult they are or how easy they are, depending on how you look at it. So we'll jump into game here, and hopefully my game will capture. Did I not? There we go. So we got our game here. I have what is considered a pretty well-geared Uber smiter here, and he will clear the Ubers really quick. I do want to talk about gear choices that you can make, rather than just show you guys the crazy gear that I have. I'll kind of go by slot, and then we'll go from there. So for the weapon slot, Grief or Grief or Last Wish would be the best in slot. Grief has more DPS output, and Last Wish has a fade proc as well as life tap, which is really helpful. But Grief's big deal is that damage plus 3 something, 3xx, that gives you actual really good damage output, as this is multiplied by all your enhanced damage and stuff, and is really useful. Aside from that, if you spell in a phase blade, the attack speed doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is that damage. It's a really good piece, and it'll make your Uber running a lot easier. Alternatives include the Black Rune Word, Lightsaber. There's also a Set Scepter that has Crushing Blow on it. But if you don't have Grief, you want something with a high attack speed, and something with some Crushing Blow. Is really helpful. But in this case, it doesn't have Crushing Blow. Last Wish does. And Crushing Blow is really important for breaking the Ubers themselves. The second slot that I want to talk about is the helmet. And there's a couple of options here. You can run a Gilliam's Face, which is what I'm running. It gives you some faster hit recovery and Crushing Blow. The other really good piece to put in here is Kira's Guardianship. With an will give you an insane amount of resist, and resistances are really important in Ubers. My character really lacks resistances, so it struggles a lot in certain areas. The next piece, you're either going to want a High Lords or a Cat's Eye, or a Maris for additional resist if that's what you want, but Maris are incredibly expensive. This was self-found for me. Or any amulet that has plus resist on it will be really helpful. You primarily want lightning res, as that's what Mephisto deals, and Mephisto is really scary. For shield, best in slot would be Exile. Alternatives include Herald of Zakera, Spirit Shield, or any Paladin Shield. So if you get a Paladin Shield with high plus res, it's like 40 plus, and then put 4 perfect diamonds in it, it'll have a crazy amount of resist in it. So you can do a shield like that with your Kiras, and then that's suddenly max res, and you don't need resistances on anything else, because that will give you your max resist stacked, which is really helpful. And then you can wear, for example, the Gilliams. You can put we'll get to armor. You can put the Black Rune Word here. You can get Goblin Toes, which are stupidly cheap and easy to find. And then you can just focus on melee damage with the rest of the pieces, or survivability with the rest of the pieces. So if you do that combo, it's really easy to stack other things. Exile also gives life tap, which is really helpful. And then the Defiance Aurora, which we stack some crazy defenses once we're all buffed up. And then on switch, Call to Arms and Spirit is a good switch. Alternatively, if you don't have a lot of procs for life tap, what you can do is you can go speak to Akira, and you can shop wands until you find one with charges to life tap. And the odds of me finding one in one go are really rare. I'd have to charge a little bit, and I don't have an example right now. But you're looking for that +1 to life tap skill on charges. So this is, for example, we just saw a lower res wand, which is useful for a build that I plan on doing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that one. But actually, I'll buy it later. It's not a big deal. Anyways, a life tap one will give you the ability to do life tap on Switch. So if you carry your another shield with some P-topazes and a life tap wand, it'll go a long ways towards you. You don't necessarily need Call to Arms, but Call to Arms is nice. But if you're going to carry Call to Arms, you do want procs of life tap. I have 2 sources of life tap here from the Exile, and then that brings us to the next piece, which is Dracula's Grasp. Dracula's Grasp is almost a best in slot. The only reason that you wouldn't use something like Laying of Hands, because Laying of Hands does have that crazy increased damage to demons, and most of what we're fighting is demons, is mostly this 25% chance to open wounds. People like to make it more expensive because it has extra strength or extra life stolen per hit. Honestly, Smite doesn't proc lifesteal, which is something that we really need to address and understand before we go and spend a lot of high runes or stuff on things that proc or that have life steal, because life steal isn't that important. It's really procking the life tap. Another source of life tap is Marrow Walks. You can get some Marrow Walk boots, and they have life tap charges on them as well, which is really helpful. That's another alternative. But Drax is probably best in slot for PvE. Laying of Hands is a lot of fun if you have another proc of lifesteal, and we'll get into why having some lifesteal is really helpful in just a little bit when we talk about the build. For rings, mandatory is Ravenfrost. You absolutely must have a Ravenfrost, as it gives Cannot Be Frozen, where you need to put a Cham in your helm, which is really expensive. It's up to you which way you want to go with that, but Cannot Be Frozen on a Ravenfrost is really easy to grab. A Wisp or a Dwarf Star is recommended in the second ring slot. Some people switch back and forth. Some people wear a rare ring with a dual leech on it, because then you don't run out of manual when you're zealing. I personally like a Dwarf Star, mostly because of the resist, not the fire absorb, as the resists are what helps a lot. Or not the resist, but mostly because of that 40 life right there, as that gets multiplied by Call to Arms. The next piece is going to be the belt. I'm personally wearing a Thunder Guts. This helps against Mephisto and gives 20 strength and 20 vitality, allowing me to have a lot more health. Alternatives include the String of Ears, which gives you additional lifesteal and damage reduced by 15, which is really good. I think it's 10 to 15. The other really good thing would be Verdungo's Hardy Coil. And that gives damage reduced as well as strength and vitality, which is really helpful. Lastly, we'll talk about boots. You can grab Gore Riders, Goblin Toes, or Marrow Walks would be the 3 that I'd recommend, Marrow Walks being the most expensive or difficult to find. The reason Marrow Walks is because, again, the life tap charges. The reason that I'm wearing Gore Riders over Goblin Toes have the 25% crushing blow, which is arguably better than Gore Riders. But what I really appreciate on the Gore Riders is the 30% faster run walk. When you're running through the rooms and you don't have Enigma, it is difficult to run around. So that 30 faster run walk is nice. The additional open wounds is also nice, as open wounds is what allows us to actually kill the NPCs. If I take off the open wounds, they take significantly longer to kill, whereas when we have open wounds, it's a lot faster. They also have Deadly Strike, which is double damage that stacks with the High Lord's Wrath to create a double Deadly Strike. Well, not double, but we got 33% here and 15% here, meaning that we have, that 33 plus 15 is 47. So 1 in 2, 1 in 3 attacks will be double damage than what they're supposed to be, which is really nice. I like Gore Riders for that reason. They allow you to walk really quick. Now, the next piece is armor, and there's a lot of choices here and a lot of flexibility. Fortitude is really solid for walking, but if you can afford it, an Enigma is the fastest armor that you can use because of the teleport. So if you want to do them fast, the teleport on Enigma is really good. Whereas if you want to take a little bit long, or not do them fast, but do them safer, Fortitude is probably better. Alternatives include Duress, Treachery. I have a Treachery here, and this is a pre-buff Treachery. It requires no strength. Treachery is really good to have on hand. It's Shield, Thul, Lem, and acquiring a Treachery is really nice because what you can do is you can proc Fade, and Fade will give you additional res. And to proc fade on treachery, so my first Uber, I ran with a treachery, a pre-buff, and a smoke. Or no, wait, Viper Magi, because I had a Viper Magi. So what we're going to do is we're going to put on that, we're just going to kill all these guys. They're kind of annoying. While we talk about armors, we'll go ahead and proc up Fade. So if you stand in a fire, we'll go ahead and buff ourselves as well. We have a little bit more health. If you stand in a fire long enough, the Treachery will pre-buff, and it will give you additional resist. And a bunch of other goodies that is nice. I'm just killing these guys so they don't do additional damage. We'll use some health potions and get pre-buffed. Anyways, you just kind of sit in a fire. It doesn't matter which fire, because fire can proc it. And there we go. We got it procced. So now I have some crazy high resists. We switch back to the Fortitude. They're all maxed. I'm pretty much immortal. This lasts about 5 minutes. And it can be helpful when the Uber Trist does get messed up. I tend to pre-buff my Fade. It also gives a 20% damage reduction, which is huge. So if you combo that with a Duress or combo that with the resist piece that I talked about earlier, you'll be in a really good spot resist-wise. Also comboed with Enigma, it gives a lot more durability than just running straight Enigma. So it's up to you what you want to do. Duress gives a lot of open wounds and or it gives open wounds and crushing blow. Smoke gives you a lot of res. Treachery gives you the pre-buff, and then Viper Mage gives you a really high stacked res. So it's up to you what you want to use in there for being cheap, or you can go all out and get like Enigma and Teleport. In this case today, we're going to run Fortitude with the Treachery pre-buff. Next, I suppose we talk about gear. Or not gear. We've talked about the gear, so I think I've talked about all the pieces. Also, resistance charms are not a bad idea to have. I have a 30 res, 12 faster hit recovery grand charm that I found. And I just look for resists and life in charms, and we take those because they're nice. This is a Hellfire Torch that we got. We traded for it. I sell undead torches and buy keys, and that's how I have geared this character the way it is. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the build in tech. So there's 3 things that are mandatory. The first up being all points into 20 points into Fanaticism, and then 20 points into Holy Shield and 20 points into Smite. This will give you the maximum damage and the quickest speed for breaking the Ubers. And that is basically your combat skills. The next bit, because Holy Shield is there, you're going to run that all the time. I recommend at least 1 point into Salvation. This beats Mephisto's Conviction with 1 skill point. And Mephisto's Conviction is a huge threat, and we'll explain that when we fight Mephisto. He's kind of a scary thing. I also like to put a point into Vigor. I know it costs a few points. Costs 1, 2, 3, because I like to be able to walk a little faster. The extra walk speed from Vigor is really useful. And I have Vigor on F4 and Fanaticism on F3. So I'll chase down the NPC with this, and then I'll hit F3 there, and then we'll fight him. And that allows me to chase things down a little bit quicker, because there are NPCs that move fast and are really difficult to fight. Bonus skills that you might like are putting a few points into Resist Lightning to increase your maximum res. For every 2 points you put into a resist aura, you get a increase in max res by 1%. So 10 points into this will allow me to have plus 10 max lightning res. I'm not currently utilizing this as my lightning res is not high enough to actually be good with running Salvation and being under the Conviction aura. So I actually die to Mephisto quite frequently, and that's why this character is not getting levels, because Mephisto frequently kills me. So does Endoriel, and we'll explain why Endoriel is dangerous when we get to her. I put a lot of points into Defiance to increase my defense, and I only did that once I had actually split my points between Lightning Res and Fire Res before, but I wanted max increased defense with Holy Shield because I have the Defiance Aurora that stacks with it, and it multiplies the stupid crazy defenses and actually provides me a strong defense. Offensively speaking, since we were talking about the skills, you can put additional points into Zeal. Increasing Zeal will increase your attack rating, meaning your Zeal is more likely to hit, and when you have a high level of Zeal, you can kill the trash mobs a lot faster than with Smite. Smite's really powerful and is really good against a single target, but it is not good against many multiple targets, which you're going to have to deal with. And again, things that are useful in the group is somebody that can deal with a lot of the trash mobs, or the smiter's job, or the kicksin's job, or the barb job. The one with crushing blow is going to be the one that needs to actually kill the boss. We need somebody to deal with trash mobs. Since we're kind of an all-in-one package and we're doing it with one character, Zeal is really helpful. Additional points into Zeal when you're beginning this is really easy. Once you have really crazy things like Exile, the Zeal becomes less valuable, and putting points into Defiance is valuable. Alternatively, 1 point in Redemption is really solid. Getting a some people like to put 20 points into Conviction and beat Mephisto's Aurora, because if you have a higher conviction than Mephisto, your conviction will override Mephisto's, and you won't have to deal with Mephisto's conviction at all, which is interesting. But that's expensive, where Salvation beats it with 1 point. That's kind of just worth it to just put a point into Salvation, not worry about it. That's my preference. We end up with 1 point into Charge. This allows us to navigate a little bit faster if we use it. I'm currently set up to use Enigma, so we won't be using Charge in the demonstrations. But that's it for the skill points. For stats, we want to have max block while using Holy Shield. So when you activate your Holy Shield, you want to put enough dexterity to have max block. Additionally, enough strength to wear all your gear. My strength is set up to be wearing, I believe I'm set up to be wearing Laying of Hands and Fortitude, which is my lowest strength conversion. So I have just enough strength here in this combination to put on all my gear. And that's how my character is built. You could build your strength around wearing Dracula's. It just depends on what you want to do and what you want to be able to switch into, how much strength you want. Use strength just enough to put your gear on. The rest doesn't matter. And then dexterity, enough to have max block. You want to consider that you're using Ravenfrost, as Ravenfrost gives a lot of dexterity. I believe it gets 15 to 20. And any other plus dex gear. Phase Blades also take 136 dexterity, which is kind of difficult. And since we're already putting that much, we may as well get max block. Max block is insanely good. As you can tell, I have a 5% chance to get hit by an imp, and then of that 5% chance, 1 in 4 will hit, so that 5% chance is 1 in 20, and that if that imp hits me, and then the 1 in 20 is then multiplied by the 1 in 4, which means that 1 in 80 attacks will actually strike my character, seriously mitigating the damage. Max block is something with high defense, in conjunction with high defense, mitigates a lot of incoming damage. So it does help against a lot of the trash mobs and stuff, but only things that actually like prick you. The caster things that you fight will still do damage, and you still have to deal with them. And then of course the rest goes into vitality. I don't have a perfect build here, as I don't have perfect gear. So the next part, I guess, would be actually doing the Ubers. I know this video is getting kind of long. You're going to need 3 key sets. I have here 10, I believe, or I have 7. So we're going to do one run. To open up the portals, you're going to want to make a game and know the password. I've been in this game for a while, and I know what the password is. You need 3 key sets, and you see I just kind of have them organized. We're going to get them in my inventory here. And the reason that we want to open up all 3 is because if we open up all 3 in the same game, we're guaranteed all 3 rooms. So I don't know what the first one that I'm going to open is. I don't know what the second one that I'm going to open is, but the third one's always the last one. So if we open up 3, we always get all 3 of the rooms. Each of these rooms has a different challenge that you have to deal with. Matrion's Den is my least favorite, so we'll go ahead and go in there first. I'm going to go ahead and cast my buffs. A higher Holy Shield on Switch. And then, so I like my Zeal point to deal with the trash mobs, and my Vigor point to run around. And we'll just kind of go run around. I pop all the things. This is a high-level monster area. So I have seen crazy things. I like to Zeal these guys. Again, I have crazy gear, so they die pretty quick. And the big challenge of this is these Lancers like to just pop out of corners and charge you. And there's another really scary... I'm going to check that for potentially a white base. So this is where I like Vigor. It's useful to walk around. I kind of ignore the archers. They have lowish attack ratings. They don't hit me very often. There is a threat in here. There they are. These guys like to appear in large numbers. This is a small, non-threatening group. Lifesteal here is helping me survive. You see here's a wall where there's a lot of them. This is where things kind of get scary if you don't have a durable build with a lot of life tap procs. These guys do a lot of damage. If I just kind of sit here, we'll see them. Well, actually, in large numbers, they do a lot of damage. Individually, they're not really a threat. But you see there's just large numbers of archers, succubi, and hell witches, and they can get kind of scary if you're not paying attention. We're looking for Lilith, so here's another room where they're kind of scary. Sometimes there's a boss in the group. They can have, like, conviction with them and a bunch of other silly things. I'm going to recast my battle orders here. I just keep on walking around. I'm kind of to the point on this character where I can skip most of the mobs. But, like, when we run into a group like this is what I mean. There's a lot of them. And dealing with this can be difficult. So this is kind of the challenge of this area before the boss. And we just kind of have to deal with it, if that makes sense. There's just a lot of incoming DPS. We can deal with it the way we move. You kind of get a feel for it when you've done it a few times. This can be challenging. And if you do die, I just leave the game and rejoin. As it's a lot easier to do that than to try and mess with trying to get your body, because if you accidentally pick up a piece of gear or something, you can really like mess up your body and split up your body and do weird things. So with how much effort you put into your character, it's worth it to just leave and rejoin in order to get your body back. So I do want to talk about Zeal. It does work, as you can tell. I don't have crazy attack rating. I only have 1,700. It does work all right with a low attack rating. Most monsters don't have a high defense. And so you'll end up being okay, just kind of zealing around with a low chance, as long as you have a high attack speed. Fanaticism does help. It brings it up to 3,000. And you can attack most things pretty well. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to reliably hit the boss with Zeal. So now let's talk about Lilith. Lilith is poison damage with a high physical alpha attack. She'll miss about, I think, 1 in 4, and then combined with another 1 in 8. So I think it's like 1 in 8 of her attacks will actually hit me. But she poisons you, and as you can tell, this poison's actually pretty nasty. It's taking off chunks of my health. So it's a pretty decent poison. I have 54 poison res, so I don't have the best poison res. I'm going to go ahead and switch to Smite here so I can life tap to heal instead of eating potions. But she also has an attack, and when she actually hits me, she does a good percent of damage. So you see that she did like 20% damage, and she, I believe, also has Deadly Strike. I've seen her take me down to very low health off of 1 hit. So she can be really devastating in that manner. And with the high poison damage, there are counters that you can do. Wearing a Venom Ward will make the poison heal you rather than kill you, assuming that you have max res. I'm going to go restock on potions because it's getting hard to stay alive. But for the most part, she's a pretty easy boss once you got life tap on her and you can just smack away. And she'll just kind of die here. Again, we do have really good gear, so this goes kind of quick. This is probably the hardest area because of the walk to her. She will always drop Diablo's Horn. So we have our Diablo's Horn. I have a random rejuve that I'm just going to waste. Probably shouldn't be doing that. Next up, I like to deal with the Furnace. The Furnace is the second hardest area. The mapping of the Furnace is pretty consistent. We have to get to the end of a trail. And the trail always tends to go in one direction. So we'll go ahead and start moving here. The big deal with the Furnace is there's a lot of fire damage from these demon tricksters, and they kind of stack up, and there's a lot of them, so they can become a threat. And then there's Dragon Lords, or Pit Lords, and these guys are immune to everything but physical. So if you're a caster of any kind, you're not going to have a good time, and then chasing down all these tricksters is kind of difficult. So it's a little frustrating with all these tricksters. I just kind of skip most of them. We also have these Hell Spawns, which spawn quite frequently. With the Hell Whip support, and the Hell Whips tend to have pretty solid defense, so they're a little harder to kill. And then back onto that Zeal. We kind of ran into the boss a little sooner than I expected. Let's talk about Zeal and its effectiveness real quick. So with Zeal, it can be really strong for these lesser armored enemies, but occasionally you get an elite with Stone Skin, and I would love to get a Stone Skin. This one has Mana Burn, and this is why we carry health pots, because Mana Burn will kill your mana, and a regular... Sorry, this is why we have mana potions. Mana Burn will absolutely wreck you for your mana, and then you won't be able to smite or Zeal with 0 mana. So you take a health potion. Is that guy demon skin? No, that guy's mana resistant. So he'll die to Zeal real quick. And you'll see the little X will pop up quite often. Little X means that your attack missed from attack chance from the attack rating. I'll talk about Smite too. So although Smite doesn't get anything from lifesteal, it does always hit. And if you life tap, you get life from it. So things that are life tapped, Smite will get heal from life tap, and that's kind of Smite's big strength. So we're just going to continue healing our way through. And again, we're watching out for demons or Stone Skin. As with our low attack rating, Stone Skin will mean that the monster is immune to our physical attacks because of our low attack rating. So Stone Skin's really hard to deal with. And Smite's nice because it kind of stuns the enemy. We'll smite them. But it also knocks them back. The knockback can be annoying when you're chasing them down. So it does always hit, so you end up killing in less hits. But it does knock them back. We did not encounter a Stone Skin, so I didn't get to give that example with the Leech. Izzle's big threat is he does cold damage. Which means that you'll get frozen if you do not have cannot be frozen on your character. He also has a pretty high damage. His attack actually hurts pretty bad when he actually hits you. And with our high defense, he doesn't hit us often. So I'm going to let him hit us. And we'll see that damage come in here. And it is a physical attack. So you see it take off a quarter of my health. And he likes to be surrounded by bad guys. So that's his big threat. He's actually pretty easy to kill overall. So he always drops Mephisto's brain. The next piece is going to be Duriel. And Duriel's big threat is in her area. She has a lot of beetles. Remember from Act 2, those scary things that do lightning damage? Thunder Gods helps here a lot. Thunder Gods makes us immune to those beetles. And then the other thing is that there are itches everywhere, and Duriel's right there. So we'll fight Duriel, and I'll kind of show you. So Duriel's big thing is Holy Freeze, and the Holy Freeze aura makes it so you attack slower. If you can survive Duriel, and he doesn't kill you, and you have open wounds and any crushing blow, eventually you'll kill him. He just takes a little while to kill. That's all. As a boss, he's super easy, and when he does hit you, it hurts pretty bad. But he does have a pretty slow attack speed, so if you can attack once per time that he attacks, pretty much guaranteed to survive. And he always drops Bell's Eye, the third organ that we're looking for. I'll kind of go to show you. Normally he likes to hang out here or like right on the spawn. He tends to be north. If he's not here, he tends to be up rather than down. Is the pattern I've noticed. And I've ran a few hundred of these, so I think I got a pretty good idea on the pattern. The big reason why you don't really want to explore this area too much is that we have these guys. The Hellstorms are physical immune, and then you get rushed by them and you can get surrounded. So what I'll do is I'll use Charge to find Duriel, and then I'll kind of lure them back. And then we have these beetles, which do the lightning thing when you attack them. And then there's maggots, which kind of spawn in mass. And this is getting really dangerous for me because I have a lot of itches. We got these big NPCs, the Iraqs that kind of block you. So when you're running around, you can get blocked by them pretty easily. And those stitches kind of stack up and get scary. And they can and will trap you, which can also be scary. I've had them trap me up after killing Duriel because Duriel was mixed up with them. That's really the big threats. There's also maggots in here. And we all kind of know that maggots multiply. They're a fun thing to deal with. So that's kind of the threat of this area. Most times you just have to deal with Duriel, though. But sometimes you have to walk around and explore there. Next up is the Ubertrist itself. This is probably the hardest part and why you need the crazy gear to do this. There are three. The three primevals are in there. I refer to them as the brothers because they're brothers. Dealing with them is difficult, and I'll show you guys why. I'm gonna buff, load up Salvation, and we're gonna open up my character window. I want you guys to watch what happens to my lightning res and all my other res when we go ahead and pop down here. So I'm gonna go say hi. Mephisto is always on the left side, so I lure him out this way. And Mephisto runs. You see, he dropped our resist by 75. That's over our stacked resist too. We have 222. It drops them down to -3. So that brings more than what Salvation does. It's like -100 something res. Once you get life tap on him, he's survivable, but as you can tell, he does a lot of damage. Even with the gear that I have and this setup, he can and will one-shot me, which makes him a devastatingly difficult fight. Once he's dead, he is the scariest thing to fight. Of the entire experience, he is by far the scariest thing to fight. You always want to lure him out and fight him alone. I'm going to kill his trash so we can talk a little bit about him. You always want to lure him out. He always tends to spawn on the left side there of the 3. I have had him spawn on the other side, and it just means you have to dive deeper into where Kane is to get him out. Things that you want to watch out for is when you do lure him out, what can happen is he can get trapped in this house, and then you have a real problem because then he can't get out because he can't teleport. He does not teleport, so he can be a real threat to you if he gets trapped in here. And then running that conviction aura, fighting the other 2 brothers under that conviction aura is incredibly dangerous. So it's important to kind of lure him out. I like to go straight down and then straight out as best I can. You saw he started spawning a bunch of things, kind of bring him in this open area, and then I kind of dance around with him until I find a straight shot straight into him. And then as soon as I can get him with a melee attack, I hit him with it as quickly as I can. And then we're just praying that we proc life tap before he kills us. And then once we proc life tap, we're pretty solid. I do always run salvation. After you kill him, you can kind of switch off your Kiras into a Gilliam's or use a different helm and shield. He's really why we need to stack all the res. So next up are the 2 brothers, Baal and Diablo. Compared to Mephisto, they're easy. I normally fight both of them at the same time. But for the sake of demonstration, we'll go ahead and lure one of the brothers out and fight them one at a time. Mephisto, or we're going to try for Diablo, but I can't promise that we're going to try for Baal. I can't promise that we'll lure Baal out, because sometimes we get Diablo instead. But I'm going to try for Baal so I can kind of explain Baal's threats. So Diablo is kind of anchored to the center. If you do lure him out, he'll kind of stay to the center, so if you bring Baal further, he'll come with you. And then, of course, we all know Baal likes to clone himself. So Baal summons these specters, and they drain mana, and that's difficult. And then he also summons these Dark Lords, which are physical immune and do fire damage. This is the original one, by the way. We have to keep track of them. So I'm going to go ahead and engage him. He also has that V-shaped attack. I'm getting trapped here. I'm not using Smite. Trying to get a lock on him. All right, we got a lock on one of the Baals. But he does that V-shaped attack, which mana burns. So it can be kind of scary when he gets mana burn on us. And we just consume a potion every time he burns our mana. And that will keep giving us mana. I know Fortitude has damage turned to mana on hit. But it's not quite enough to fix the mana burn. That's why health potions are really good. The Pit Lords are actually coming from Diablo. And we'll talk about Diablo here in just a second. So I can't actually kill those guys. So unless I lose them via using something like Charge, they're going to follow me for the rest of the fight. So we'll go ahead and skate up here. Next up is Diablo. I'm going to go ahead and buff myself up again. Diablo himself doesn't do a lot. He does his normal attacks, which, if you have okay res, aren't really bad. What he does is he summons a lot of Pit Lords. And him plus the Pit Lords kind of stack up a lot of DPS. So they can kind of become a threat. And when you fight both Diablo and Baal at the same time, you're just kind of dealing with everything. And with killing the Ubers, again, open wounds, life tap, and crushing blow are what actually kill them, because they have stupid amounts of health. And having your crushing blows 1/8 or 1/16 of their health as damage, or their remaining health as damage. So it's diminishing returns as they go lower. This is really bad. That was a leg spike. I need to still get my torch out of this game, and I didn't want it to DC. So stacking those 3 stats is what will lead to quicker kills. As they get to that last 10%, that's when the damage of grief or whatever weapon you're doing exceeds the damage from crushing blow, and why having a high damage attack is really helpful for killing them quickly. because you get to that last, the first 90% is from Crushing Blow, and the last 10% is where you kill it. Depending on your DPS, that kind of crossovers at different spots. So like if you're still running black with a lower IAS, then a Crushing Blow is going to take you down to like 98, 99%, and then a little bit of DPS will kill for the rest. If they have too much regeneration, if you don't have open wounds, they will heal, and the healing is a lot, so you kind of need really high DPS if you're not going to run open wounds. So it's a combination of the two, Crushing Blow and open wounds, that actually allows you to kill them. If you have those two things and you can survive smacking them and have life tap on them, you'll clear them. And actually pretty easy. I don't have a hard time with them. I never really did. There's also another content creator. I do want to give him a shout out, although I am insanely smaller than him. Mr. Llama does very thorough guides on things, and he did a speed run to Ubers and also budget Ubers as well. He has some really good information if you Google Llama and Ubers. I know it's not D2 Resurrected content, and I'm sure he has something for Diablo 2 Resurrected for Ubers. I know he's got like a basic guide on how to do it. He doesn't have something quite this thorough for D2 Resurrected, but he has way more thorough content on D2, the Lord of Destruction, which is the original, and nothing is different between there and here. So, well, there's a couple of small differences, but in this context, nothing is different. So that's Uber Tristram. I'm Hateless Gaming, and if you like this guide, make sure you put some comments below. I would love to make more of them. My Eve guys, if you're still here with me, thank you for being patient and sticking with the videos. I do enjoy playing D3 or D2 Resurrected. It has been an absolute blast, and I've been running a lot of these Ubers, so I figured I'd make a fairly thorough guide. I know I didn't touch on everything in every gear combination or every class combination for sure, because I really just covered the Smiter as a whole. I may make a kick video or a barbarian video in the future, but Ubers can be run in a lot of different ways. I just wanted to kind of lay down the foundation of what the bare minimum was, and I'm not trying to show off my gear. I'm trying to kind of explain to you guys what is what with these, so that you can run them too. But until next time, keep on bringing each other up, and I will see you guys in the next one.